So thankfully, we've been on my introductory slide long enough that I don't have to talk about me whatsoever. I did, however, want to use this time to highlight my team, the PwC Threat Intel team, an incredible leadership from Chris McConkey and Jason Smart, Rachel Mullen, Alison Wyckoff, who have built this incredible team of technical and strategic analysts who produce reports across all sectors for all kinds of organizations, from small to medium to large. And this team is not just high quality in its production, but in the people as well. So if you know anyone in the Threat Intel team, please reach out to them and say hi, ask how they're doing, because they're all such amazing people. But also, if you don't know anyone in the PwC Threat Intel team, come talk to me afterwards and we will set up a conversation. So with those introductions out of the way, it is time for me to kind of start talking about what this talk is going to be about. And I know that some people in this watching this talk are going to be familiar with ransomware as a service. One of the advantages of being in a talk in this kind of conference is that most of you will already know about ransomware. But I am going to do just a tiny introduction to ransomware as a service as a whole, and then go into an overview on DarkSide, and then use the story of DarkSide, because it is ostensibly this amazing story of resurgence and resilience, to talk about the technical elements of DarkSide and then Black Matter, and then show and see how the operator changed things up, resurged in their own way, went back to the drawing board and thought about things that they maybe wouldn't have done had they not had to kind of go from scratch again. So what is ransomware as a service? I've done this diagram. I am not focusing on any of this diagram save for that tiny section between operator and affiliate, because the rest of this kind of milieu or environment that is the ransomware as a service environment is covered by every other talk, which is awesome, because this conference just goes such a long way in upskilling all of us in every single aspect, whether we talk to clients, whether we talk to our technical teams, whether we talk at the C-suite level. Every talk here is worth listening to, but I'm going to be focusing on that tiny little window between operator and affiliate. It is just worth saying that ransomware as a service basically covers all of that. That big diagram is ransomware as a service. This operator has a mission to make money, but they can't just do it on their own, or rather, it is more profitable and efficient to do it through other means. And that includes not just the affiliates, but it includes the initial access brokers that Beth and Sam talked about. It includes the crypto money launderers that are coming up in the next presentation after this. It includes negotiations and leak sites, which have been covered by the DFIR team. All of this is covered in this conference. So don't worry if you have questions, it's all covered. I just won't be talking about all of it. What I will be talking about, however, is DarkSide. So this ransomware as a service operation called DarkSide turns up in November 2020. It arrives on the scene at a time when the environment, or the ransomware as a service environment, is already relatively saturated. You have your Contis, you have your Lockbits, but at the time they're probably Lockbit 1.0. You have your NetWalkers, your Revils. So it didn't really need another threat actor, but here we are with DarkSide. Picks up steam relatively quickly, and by what I mean by that is victims start appearing on the leak site relatively fast, which means that even if we don't know that the affiliate program is large, because we don't have that data to hand, we know that they were popular, at least successful in their initial access and their initial operations. So much so that they garner attention from mainstream sites, and that's when you know a ransomware is doing well, is when they get picked up by mainstream media and are out of the kind of Security Affairs and the bleeping computers. They're now in the Forbes and the CNNs. And as we will see, this is a group that loves to be in mainstream media. But for now, let's focus specifically on DarkSide 1.0, because it gives us a real cool starting foundation for us to build off of when we talk about the next stages. I don't actually want to spend too much time on DarkSide 1.0, save for the fact that it's a cool little configurable ransomware as a service binary. There are interesting choices inside the malware where we can see the operator has specifically thought about its malware as a product. Not just the stuff that's configurable, but these weird little functions that not only have weird outcomes. You can see kind of on the screen there's this weird function that even if you don't understand what's going on, you can see there's this like return value, and those return values are custom. There's no reason for them to be 52, 53, 60, 62, etc. It's just the threat actor has chosen to do that. And as a little spoiler, if you were to signature that function, you would be able to get every single binary from DarkSide 1.0 all the way to black matter, like the last black matter binaries before it kind of decides to end operations. One of the best things about that function is in DarkSide 1.0, it comes after the encryption mechanism. If you look at the code base, it's done after encryption, meaning most of the time it won't even fire, which I find super funny, but also super interesting because, as we will come on to, when they resurge again, they actually think about this function and move it to a more applicable place. So what I love about DarkSide 1.0 is it's this great introduction to this very clearly affiliate-oriented program, as all ransomware as a service binaries are. But DarkSide 1.0 doesn't really have any anti-analysis techniques, doesn't really have any code base kind of functionality that would give me as an analyst much difficulty. It just gives me all that good, sweet ransomware as a service affiliate choice that I'm looking for when I'm studying ransomware as a service. So as I said, it has a lot of kind of configurable elements to it. And when you look at the code base, even from a graph overview perspective, you can kind of see on the right hand side, even if you don't know what's going on, you can see that there are these three branches, and that's the encryption mechanism. That's where the threat actor, the affiliate rather, is allowed to make the choice. What kind of encryption mechanism do they want to use in their binary? Which I think is, as an analyst, that's great because threat intel can be so abstract sometimes when we look at binaries, especially APT binaries and those from the espionage kind of things. We don't really get that hands-on keyboard perspective. But with ransomware as a service, it's all human. It is all product. These ransomware as a service operators, they function on the basis that their affiliates do the work for them, i.e. they make a product that must work for multiple affiliates. And that's what you see in DarkSide 1.0. And it's so much fun to look at because you get that real developer, that real person making malware, making code feel. It's really good fun more than anything else, and that's what the job should be, more importantly than anything else. I just enjoyed looking at 1.0. But unfortunately, for DarkSide 1.0, or rather DarkSide as an operator, the one thing you want your malware to do as an operator is for it to encrypt stuff in an efficient way. Well, not only is DarkSide 1.0 quite slow at encryption, it also doesn't work. And the guys and gals over at Bitdefender did an incredible job reversing the kind of encryption routine and mechanism, and found that there was actually a fatal flaw, and built a decryptor based off of the research that they did and handed it out to victims for free. And that caused DarkSide 1.0 to go underground. And more than anything, forced them to kind of go back to the drawing board and think about what it is that they really wanted from their malware. And we see that in DarkSide 2.0. DarkSide 2.0, if you look on the screen, the changes, even if you don't understand what the words are on the screen, you can clearly see the changes are way more than the things that remained. And I talked about that operating system check before. Well, in DarkSide 2.0, they move it all the way up to where the language check is. You see that geography check employed? That's where ransomware will look at the keyboard layout of the victim, and if the keyboard is set to a language that is part of the former Soviet Union, normally the ransomware will just terminate itself. But they move the operating system check all the way to the top next to the language check, so it has to pass both in order for it to continue. But this slide here is what I want. What I want to get across is the malware, those 2 months that DarkSide 2.0 takes from January to March when they resurge. It's not just that they kind of twiddled their thumbs and went, well, okay, I guess we'll just wait for the next time. They sat down and went, okay, what about our binary doesn't work? And what about it can we make more efficient? And you know what? I completely forgot this slide was in there, but it is here. This is from me to you, explaining, or rather visualizing, where the differences are between DarkSide 1.0 and 2.0. So you can see, even if again you can't read C-level code on that far left picture, you can see clearly the one on the left hand side is different from the one on the right hand side. And I know someone may call me out as disingenuous, but I promise that is symbolizing that they are very different binaries. And you would have to have known DarkSide 1.0 kind of well for you to really understand that was actually an evolution of DarkSide 1.0. The DarkSide 2.0 really is an evolution in all kinds of DarkSide 1.0. these will be available later, and we can talk about these on Slack if you want. I just don't really have time to talk about the technical nuances of the DarkSide 2.0 binary. But as I was saying, DarkSide 2.0 is really successful. It's not just they went back to the drawing board and thought, wow, we'll just wait for the next opportunity to arise. They go, let's build something better. Let's build back better. Am I right? So DarkSide 2.0 is much more successful as an affiliate program. It catches more affiliates, or at the very least, it is more successful in that it nets more victims in a shorter period of time. And this is a perfect opportunity for me to highlight the research done by the PwC Norway team, where I'm based, where they did their work on a DarkSide incident, which we call Project Blacklight Holm. Can't talk about the victim or much about the actual kind of incident itself, but the team did an incredible job working around the clock with other network firms to make sure that the client was well looked after, made sure that they were able to kind of understand how bad and how much damage, the impact of the attack, because the affiliates in DarkSide 2.0 become not more advanced, but certainly more hardened and more persistent than those seen in 1.0. They start to, even if they're pushed out the network, they come back and things like that. So of course, the one incident that everyone knows from DarkSide 2.0, or at least knows about DarkSide, is Colonial Pipeline. But it is super important to mention that just because a story makes mainstream headlines, it doesn't mean that the other victims should be forgotten. And certainly there were large victims netted by DarkSide, the DarkSide operator, over that short period of March to May, June. But certainly, and unfortunately, Colonial Pipeline is it spells the end for DarkSide 2.0. And we don't really know whether that is because the operator gets too cocky and provides the affiliate some kind of way into Colonial Pipeline and it's their mistake, or it's an affiliate getting too ballsy with their TTPs and forcing themselves into Colonial Pipeline, and the operator just going, oh no, we're in trouble. And certainly they were in trouble. The US government comes down on them like a ton of bricks. And shortly afterwards, the DarkSide 2.0 operator decides to shut up shop. And we thought at this point it was for good, although there were murmurings in the threat intel community that actually we shouldn't be so naive. And I'm telling you, in 2022, after the Conti debacle, that we shouldn't be so naive. But we're in a situation now, it's July. We haven't heard much from the DarkSide crew until they post, and it's not a post typical of a ransomware as a service operation saying, hi, here we are, this is who we are, come get in touch if you want to work with us. It is a, yeah, hi, you know who we are, can we have creds please? And you can see the translation there on the slide. Can we have credentials, legitimate access credentials for companies with a revenue of over $100 million and network hosts between 500 and 15,000, I think. So it's not just a resurgence in the typical sense of, hey, we're here again. It's yeah, we're back and we want your stuff. So one of the cool things about this, and something that I think about quite a lot, and this isn't so much intelligence as it is kind of mental gymnastics, or it's probably not a great word for it, or intelligent thought. It's speculation. DarkSide 2.0 and DarkSide 1.0, when you look at the affiliates and the way that they conducted themselves, there was much more freedom in the way that they conducted initial access. It's interesting that DarkSide 3.0, or rather Black Matter, when Black Matter resurges as, I'm going to stop calling it DarkSide 3.0, but you get what I mean. When they resurge as this new but old threat actor, they immediately state that they want legitimate access credentials. That says to me, at the very least, and you don't have to take my word for it, that they want more control over the affiliate program. They want more control over how affiliates conduct themselves in their operations. That may stem from the fact that Colonial Pipeline was in fact a botch job by an affiliate, causing DarkSide to have to undergo new changes. And this is actually supported by the idea when we look at the code base of Black Matter. Black Matter, when we talk about the transition between DarkSide 1.0 and 2.0, there is market change. You could see the changes. Black Matter to DarkSide 2.0, the changes are very minimal. In fact, most of the major changes are only in anti-analysis techniques, which, as I mentioned before, weren't really prevalent in DarkSide 1.0 or 2.0, meaning my job was made much easier. the threat actor employs these kind of anti-analysis techniques using debug flags and this weird memory heap stuff, AB, AB, AB. If you want to learn more about that specific technique, my colleague Link Cabin does a super cool video on that, and I will link that in the Slack. But apart from the dynamic API decryption and this weird flag setting that can only be done in debuggers, there is really little else that's changed. The only thing that's worth mentioning is this weird new use of an API called logonuserw, which wouldn't be significant if it wasn't also used in only one other ransomware as a service as far as I've seen, which is another ransomware as a service called Black Cat, which we may or may not come on to talk about, I don't know. So unfortunately for Black Matter, if you studied the Black Matter binary for more than about 10 to 15 minutes, you'd know that it was, in fact, a resurgence of DarkSide. It was just the same thing. They hadn't really changed all that much. So the US government puts out this $10 million bounty, which I think is something they've started to see has quite a lot of success because there is no honor amongst thieves. And I'm quite sure that even the most die-hard DarkSide 2.0 operator is going to take $10 million over, scrounging for thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars over intrusions, which is risky in and of itself. So the US government employs this technique, and DarkSide 2.0, or rather Black Matter, is no more. And that's the end of our story. Or is it the end of our story? I wish I could say that it was, but unfortunately, well, this talk would be pretty awful if it just ended here. There is this new ransomware as a service binary that appears not 2 weeks after the Black Matter operator decides to shut down its operations. It's called Black Cat, or AlphaNG. It's written in Rust, which Rust programming language, if you've ever looked at it, is horrible. I don't care if you like it. That's on you, buddy. I hated looking at this. It loads in all the libraries at once, and it's just a huge binary as opposed to C and C++, which is what DarkSide and Black Matter is written in. So already there's some discrepancy there between Black Matter and Rust. Black Matter and Black Cat, because they're written in completely different programming languages. They're almost anathema to each other. And if you just looked at them side by side, you wouldn't have any context whatsoever. You just say, oh, they're different. Black Cat, for its own part, has become one of the most successful, or one of the more successful, I should say, ransomware operations of this year. And I suspect it will likely become more successful as Conti, well, whatever is becoming of the Conti ransomware as a service program, when that dissipates and affiliates start to trickle down into other programs. I suspect that the Black Matter program will pick up more than it has done already. But it is extremely prolific and something that all of your clients and everyone watching this presentation should be aware of it and should be reading up about. And there are some excellent write-ups about Black Cat, by the way. So here is my thing. I've been a little bit disingenuous on this slide because there are more points against than there are for, but I am going to posit to you that actually Black Cat, there is evidence, more evidence that Black Cat is actually a continuation of Black Matter than it isn't, or rather than Black Matter, than Black Cat. There's so many ransomware as a service binaries that Black Cat is an inspiration of Black Matter, because the Black Cat operators have come out publicly and said, we take the best bits of REvil and Black Matter and we put them together and we make this binary, which is all well and good, except for the fact that Black Cat 1.0 is quite a shoddy binary. And what I mean by that is it's unfinished. You can kind of see on the top right of the screen there an image of, it's a graph overview of Black Cat 1.0. You don't have to know what's going on, save for the fact that you can see that there's this API called SH test token membership, and it passes in a value, 220H. And then at the bottom of the screen, it says token is admin as a string, which indicates to the user or indicates to the affiliate that this is what this malware is about to do. It's for configuration purposes, because you can plug and play with the configuration of Black Cat as you could with Black Matter and DarkSide. The function there, SH test token membership, you can actually see there's a second SH test token membership function on the bottom there. That is from DarkSide 2.0. There are, as far as I'm aware, and I've done some Yara tests on this, there are no other binaries that use this privilege escalation technique other than DarkSide. This, on top of the fact that Black Cat 1.0 it's not finished. And I say not finished because I've seen Black Cat 2.0 and 3.0. They're not official, but I'm calling them that. I've seen the evolution of Black Cat. They removed a lot of the functionality that was mentioned in open source about Black Cat. So a key example that I haven't even mentioned yet, Black Matter ransomware, when it encrypts systems, it can't encrypt the whole system because that would mean that the user wouldn't be able to pay the ransom. It's like me ransoming your house, but then also encrypting your bank account. You can't pay me if you don't have access to money. In the same way, you can't pay a ransom if you don't have access to the Tor link, you don't have access to your Internet Explorer or any kind of network functionality. So the ransomware has to be really careful about what it encrypts. I'm saying this and using this background information for a reason. The configuration of Black Matter is identical to Black Cat 1.0. This is significant for two reasons. Number one, that's just weird. But number two, Black Cat 2.0 does not have the same configuration as Black Matter. That's significant because one of the only things that open source mentioned when it compared Black Matter and Black Cat was the config. It didn't mention the SH test token membership, which by the way is still in Black Cat 3.0. They also didn't mention the logon user W API, which is also still in Black Cat 3.0, as it was in Black Cat 1.0 and 2.0. But what the malware author did change was the stuff that they could visibly see threat intel looking at, which I think is super interesting, because if I'm a ransomware operator, if we're all Black Matter, and we get that $10 million bounty, and we're all looking at each other like, who's ratting who out first, guys? I'm sure that they're looking at this bounty and going, I don't want to shut up shop. I don't want to shut up shop, but I don't have any choice because I've got snakes around me. And then someone pipes up from the back and says, I have this binary. It's not finished. It's not tested, but we could. It's written in a completely different binary, a completely different programming language, but it has the functionality of Black Matter. We could feasibly use it for us to be able to kind of continue on with the affiliate program. It's got those easy strings, so the affiliate knows exactly what's going on, so they won't have too much problem picking up the new binary. And we can just keep plugging away without having to actually give anything up. And everyone looks around the room and goes, well, I mean, I guess so. That sounds feasible to me. That conclusion seems more feasible to me, given everything that I know about Black Cat and Black Matter, in that the code base is a little bit rusty, if you pardon the pun. There are code base overlaps that are relatively significant in that they've kept in the stuff that no one in open source talked about, but they removed the stuff that everyone in open source talked about. And if I'm a crime operator, I'm doing as much as possible to remove myself from the heat that is the US government. So in my mind, Black Cat and Black Matter are highly likely, and I'm going to put my neck on the line on this, highly likely the same threat actor. And that's amazing. If true, that's amazing, because that shows the resilience of this threat actor that has been targeted by the US government, not once, but twice, with not just servers being shut down, but a $10 million ransom, which I think is not just ballsy, but it shows the real tenacity of these threat actors to continue operations. And we have spoken about Conti, and Conti will be a subject that we talk about long after this presentation and conference is over. DarkSide is one example of a new kind of ransomware as a service, a resilient and really pernicious operator that won't stop for love nor money. And that really feeds into this takeaway section that I kind of wanted to meander into, which is DarkSide is a story, it is not the story. And although it is a fantastic one and a really interesting and cool little insight into the ransomware as a service world from a resilience perspective, that's not everything. We still have a lot of work to do as threat intel analysts, as technical analysts in the ransomware as a service space. And that's stuff that we have to work out with the incident responders and the threat hunters as well. And we will continue to plug away, but I wanted to emphasize the DarkSide is not the end. It is almost the beginning in a very overemphasizing way or an exaggerative way. It is only the beginning of what is this new resilient ransomware as a service operator. But also, I want to think about ransomware as a product and think about the choices that an operator has to make in order for them to be able to sell their product to lots of affiliates. And in that choice, in that product, is weakness. From a threat intel analyst perspective, that's weakness, because there are going to be choices and compromises the threat actor has to make when it makes those binaries. And those weaknesses, as in the operating system function that we looked at DarkSide 1.0, or the SH test token membership, or the logon user W API, those choices, those compromises to keep some code base, those things are important to us because they're signaturable and they're easily identifiable. And I worked a Black Hat case not 2 days ago, and I identified it as Black Hat within 10 seconds, because I typed in SH test token membership on my IDA functions, and I found it, and I was like, oh yeah, no, this is Black Hat. And the last thing, which is almost the most important, if you're a threat intel analyst, don't worry if things take you time, but do take the time to reverse them, especially with ransomware as a service, because it's unlikely to change. Because even if they resurge, they're not going to want to restart everything. There are going to be some things that stay the same. And for you to keep your mind sharp on code base that is not just similar, but almost in some cases identical, that's where you want to be, because you save yourself time, you save your incident responders time, and you save your company time when you're looking at ransomware, or a new ransomware, purportedly new ransomware that is actually just a rebrand or taking code from somewhere else. So that's really all I wanted to say, actually, and I'm done. So thanks very much for having me, and I really enjoyed this. And I will post resources in the channel, because there are some amazing write-ups on DarkSide 1.0, 2.0, and Black Matter and Black Hat that are really worth reading outside of me just talking to you. So thanks very much, guys.